This week on Houston Newsmakers, the bombings in Boston and the effect that tragedy will have on Houston. In the same week of the bombings in Boston, a fertilizer plant explosion levels a Texas city. This as Houston, with our many big and public events, takes precautions. Our experts weigh in with some realities and advice. Discovery Green is one of those gathering places, and this week is beginning its 5th anniversary celebrations. Former Mayor Bill White is here to talk about its inception and its future. And it's the largest walk in the United States, with more than 40,000 expected for the March of Dimes March for Babies. Amid heightened security, the push for healthy starts for all babies.
From KPRC Local 2, this is Houston Newsmakers with Cambrell Marshall.
And good morning and welcome to Houston Newsmakers. We started the week with images of suffering and death in Boston. This morning we talk about how what happened in Boston might impact not only Houston, but the rest of the country as a heightened sense of security takes hold all across the United States. At midweek, we also were rocked by the fertilizer plant explosion in the city of West near Waco. Early on, officials not ruling out anything as a possible cause. Joining me this morning to explore the ramifications of both of those horrific incidents are two people who know the kinds of precautions that are or should be taken and what we can all do in this time of heightened awareness. Joan Newhouse-Shawn was a fellow at the Homeland Security and Terrorism at the Baker Institute, also served as executive director of the Houston-Harris County Homeland Security Advisory Council. Also here this morning is Brian Hoffner. He is a self-defense and anti-terror expert who spent 30 years with the Houston Police Department. Thank you both for being here. I should mention that as we are taping this program, we had two very separate explosions that happened during the week. The one in West, the same week as in Boston. The question is, as we don't know exactly what's going to be happening between now and the time this show airs, but when you have the background of Boston and something happens like it happened in West, do you go about the investigation the same, or do you go about the investigation thinking in the back of your minds that maybe this is more than an accident?
The nature of a fertilizer plant is that you could likely have an accidental or explosion that is simply human error. So you wouldn't want to necessarily approach it as a terrorist act. But on the other hand, as you mentioned, you need to start immediately gathering information if there were unusual people around, if there was anything that was not a regular occurrence, any irregularity in terms of a package, but also delivery or persons. And this being a small town, they would be very aware of someone from the outside who really didn't quite belong there. Is
a lot of this basic police kind of investigative kind of procedures when you start looking into any kind of incident like this?
The investigative procedures right now are mountainous for the investigators in Boston. We're going to have local, state, and federal investigators, all those resources being pulled, sifting through everything, going through every photo, going through all the videotape, and the civilian population is part of that investigation, which is quite interesting because the civilian population has so much of that video, so many of the pictures. So they're making those submissions. They're submitting that to law enforcement to be looked at and investigated. So it's crossing over. You're seeing a crossover now and the help from the civilian population to get the evidence to the law enforcement authorities.
How does a city like Houston react when something like this happens? There's a heightened sense of security awareness all around the country. Does the city of Houston, to your knowledge, have things in place that automatically prepare for these kinds of eventualities?
There is going to be a heightened level of security across the United States, and in Houston in particular. Although we may not be the center of finance as New York is, or the center of government as Washington is, we are one of the top economic targets. And often when you have a terrorist attack, depending on the organization and how sophisticated they are, it's either multiple bombs in the same location or sequential attacks, which is why the Ricin attack earlier this week had such significance because of the anthrax attacks being so close on the heels of the 9/11 attack. And again, you would think that each different attack could conceivably be a different MO, a different type of weapon, a different type of disruption. So across the nation, all the cities will be at a heightened state of alert. we have had enormous improvements in our ability to detect acts of terrorism and suspicious activity in our own city since 9/11. And we should commend all of our civic leaders for the efforts.
When you start, from your police experience, how does the police department expand its coverage to take into account the potential for something like that?
Well, first of all, it evolves with technology. We have the capability now to cut the cell towers, as you saw what happened in Boston. I mean, if there's explosives going off by remote device, we've got to be able to turn that off. But here's the thing to consider. Preparation takes place in the municipalities, in law enforcement, but that doesn't mean that the citizen families leave everything to the municipality and to law enforcement. What are you going to do as a family when all of a sudden there are no cell phones, when everything has been turned off? Preparation has to take place at the citizen and family level. These families have to make a plan for when there is no way to communicate. Where do we meet? In the immediate area. In other words, what we're doing today. In general terms, should something happen and we're all separated, where do we meet in the municipal area? And if that's not an option, where is our fallback area outside, whoever's place in the country? Just simple preparations like that can give a family a plan and comfort when things happen and there's no way to communicate.
We talk about the challenges of trying to find who's responsible for what happened in Boston, and in case something were to happen here. I know the city of Houston has a lot of cameras now. How much are those being used? I know that over the last several years, Homeland Security, I think, had something to do with those cameras being installed. How effective are they, and are they being in use right now, as far as you know? Well,
as mentioned in Boston and just a moment ago, the cameras are essential, but they don't have to all be owned by the state or the city. Of course, we have the cameras on our freeway and we have cameras at intersections, but the most telling of the cameras in this incident were the ones from the department store, as well as the photographs of the people on the street. So it's being an active participant as a citizen in doing your part. For example, if something were to happen, not only to see something and say something, but then to come forward and offer the resource that you have.
And potentially, you want everyone to just be aware of their surroundings. I think probably the general sense is that when people decide, okay, I'm not going to get involved in any outside activities, then they let the potential terrorists win. What do you suggest to people in terms of going about their everyday life, knowing that we are in a heightened sense of security?
We're Americans, and as Americans, we keep doing what we've always done. We live in the greatest state and the greatest country here as Texans, continue living life full, but we do have to evolve in our responsibilities. We do have to be more aware. We do have to report people and things that are suspicious. That's how we allow law enforcement to get in our involvement with them. They investigate those things as we report them. They have to be reported. We cannot ignore, we cannot be apathetic when America is at war with terrorism and the jihad is at war with America.
Joe, final thought?
A final thought, in addition to the see something, say something, is the preparations. The preparations that every family should be undertaking for a hurricane are very similar to a number of other disasters. Although with a hurricane we have 2 to 3 days warning. But for example, say cyber attackers take down the electric grid and you can't get gasoline and the stores aren't operating, you can't use your ATM. It is the exact same scenario that we have to go through every hurricane season.
Be prepared.
Be prepared.
Thank you both for coming in this morning. We'll continue to, of course, follow the investigations. Thank you, Ms. Newhouse, Sean, and Mr. Hoffner. We thank you for coming in as well.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Just ahead, one of the many public areas that Houston has become known for, Discovery Green. It's a one-of-a-kind urban park, much to celebrate. Former Mayor Bill White is here with the park president to talk about the events next week and beyond. That's next when Houston Newsmakers continues. It has been described as an urban oasis where millions visit each year. And now, as we approach the 5th anniversary celebration of Discovery Green, I'm joined by former Mayor Bill White, the man who became an early advocate for the Discovery Green Park, and Barry Mandel, Discovery Green President and Park Director, the man responsible for the park programs and fundraising and for guiding it to the next level. That's a heavy responsibility, I might add. Thank you both for being here this morning. And the milestone events coming up. And before we get to that, Mayor, with the events that are going on last week in Boston, I know that security is important no matter what happens. As a former mayor, what do you think about when it comes to trying to make sure people are safe in these kind of downtown environments?
Well, you know, we've done a lot in Houston, and the city is prepared. I know in earlier discussion there were two great experts advising preparedness. I will tell you what, though, Americans shouldn't let these terrorists push us around, and people should go about their daily lives as they normally would. What terrorists like to do is they like to scare the wits out of people and to try to make this country go in a different direction. We shouldn't let them do that.
Well, I know that we have Discovery Green going on, a lot of the 5th year anniversary celebrations. What an amazing transformation. Just think back a few years ago, not that long ago, it was a parking lot. And now it's, what stands out for you in being the catalyst for getting this park where it is right now?
Well, you know, it's interesting that when I shared the vision with people, vision of doing something where, as you said, there were surface parking lots. At first people thought, well, gosh, that's pretty big. But the more people got interested in it and made commitments, financial commitments, that helped us expand the public dollars, it just gathered momentum. And nobody believed how quickly the community was able to pull this off.
And Barry, you've been there for a while, and now the president and director of the park. How amazing has it been for you, and what do you think has been the catalyst for getting this park to the level of success and popularity it is today?
What's been the most amazing is, as a 4th-generation Houstonian, to see what's happened on the east side of downtown. As a young child, we were encouraged never go downtown, and all of a sudden there is this 12-acre center of activity that's happening. What's been really kind of heartwarming is to watch the partnerships that have been formed with the city and with the convention center in attracting new convention, new visitors, new tourists to the area.
What kind of money are we talking about? What are the estimates about the kind of money that's brought into that area as a result of Discovery Green?
Perfect example of a convention that Mayor White helped recruit here is going on right now across the street at the convention center, LNG. It's a huge oil and gas industry convention. The impact is probably close to $30 million locally.
In this whole process, Mayor, how much arm twisting did you have to do to get everybody on board? You had a couple of philanthropists who came and said, okay, we have this, what can we do? The green concept, how easy was that for people to embrace and help you get to this point where it is now?
Well, you know, people had to buy in on the scale of what we were trying to do, and we negotiated hard when we bought that land. But when people saw the vision, I'll tell you what, and people realized that I don't need to do everything, that if everybody does something, then everything gets done, then it really gathered momentum. And I'll tell you what was amazing and still amazes people is not only the crowds that are attracted, which have far exceeded the original estimates, but in the immediate vicinity, I'm talking about within a 2-block radius around that park, there's been over $2 billion of construction. So from an initial public and private sector investment of a little over $60 million, then this park pays for itself every single year. And it'll all be an inspiration to others in this community concerning other projects like this.
Barry, what more is on the drawing boards, or what more can Discovery Green do? It's a completed park right now. What more is on the drawing boards for it to be able to do, or just in terms of attract?
Well, it's still utilized as a catalyst for new development. One of the newest projects is a new convention center hotel that's going to be built right across the street. And we try and focus our programming, always cognizant of the fact that we are a neighborhood park. We have residents across the street from us, we have hotel guests across the street from us, and we focus our programming to be really unique to Houston and to be able to attract the thousands that come down every year to the park.
I know as part of the celebration going on this weekend is the big event, and Steven Kleinberg is going to be there as a part of that. I'm going to be a part of that as well. That's just one of the events that's going to be going on as a part of the fifth anniversary, correct?
Actually, it's going to be an annual, a year-long group of events, and we're going to kick off that weekend and really highlight it with Architects of Air, which is an illuminated art display that you'll be able to walk through that creates like a light explosion inside. Again, the first time in this area of the country.
And I want to plug the Kleinberg thing, which is the Changing Faces of Houston. That's Friday. That's April 26th. That's at Discovery Green. Go out there where the main stage is, and we'll be out there. It's going to be a big event. Mayor, thank you for that vision. That's a pretty good little deal you came up with, you and the people who helped you make it happen.
And when I turn on Channel 2 in the morning and I see a backdrop of Discovery Green those years, then I got to say thank Channel 2 for letting citizens know about this resource.
Well, we appreciate you coming in, Barry. Congratulations. Good luck in your continued success out there. I know everything you touch turns to gold, so it'll be fine. Thank you both for coming in.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Just ahead, it is the largest of its kind in the United States, and it takes place right here in Houston. The March for Babies, benefiting the March of Dimes and its fight to give every baby a healthy start. That's next when Houston Newsmakers continues. It happens every year at this time. Thousands of men, women, and children converge on the University of Houston campus for the March for Babies. I'm joined this morning by Kenny McCardle, the Senior Vice President at CenterPoint Energy and the Board Chair for the Houston Division of the March of Dimes, and Suzanne Rea, a CenterPoint employee and mom of the Ambassador family for this year's March for Babies. Thank you both for being here this morning. Kenny, first, I know that we have this big event going on, the March of Dimes staff, as a result of what happened in Boston, and big events. Discussions taking place about the kinds of things that need to be done to kind of watch out for extra security.
Campbell, you're correct. It is going to be a very important event for the City of Houston. Security is going to be top of mind. It always is top of mind. The City of Houston is well prepared. The University of Houston Police Department there, the security there is well prepared. March of Dimes is its close contact, and we're working very diligently to make sure that all of our community can come out and have a good time.
And I know that the City of Houston, much like the University of Houston, they all have cameras all over the place. So that's
cameras everywhere. That is correct.
Let's talk about this event. You have been involved with the March of Dimes for many years. CenterPoint is the presenting sponsor this year as well. A lot of your employees have really come out of the woodwork to make this a big event this year. Talk about the energy that goes on that day, that walk day when everybody's out.
The energy is already occurring. We've had so much energy in our campaign for fundraising this year. CenterPoint has a long tradition with March of Dimes. We get so much meaning from that actual event each year. It means so much to us that every year we can't wait to come back out and do it again. So we're looking forward to just a fabulous day. We're hoping the weather will be pleasurable for everybody. Our employees come out in mass. We always have a nice designed shirt every year to display the wealth of participation that our employees bring to the event every year. And you'll see a big smile, huge tent, good food, and a lot of happiness out there from the CenterPoint employees.
Now, Suzanne, how did you become involved with the March of Dimes?
I became involved with March of Dimes after my son Logan was born at 31 weeks. He was a full 9 weeks premature, and he was so small. He was only 3 pounds, 14 ounces. He was about 3.5 inches wide. That was the biggest way for me to describe the shock of having a preemie. We spent 5.5 weeks in the NICU, and whenever I got out, we started learning more and more about March of Dimes thanks to the nurses at Clear Lake Regional where I had him. The nurses are the ones that guided me towards the process of finding out what March of Dimes has for the families, the support network. And then when I came back to work, we were in the middle of campaigning for March of Dimes.
Oh, okay, easy sell.
And that was when I got really involved, and I've been doing it every year since.
Oh, we saw those pictures of him when he was very, very small. Now, of course, he's how old now?
He just turned 4 years old, March 15th.
And as healthy as any boy you would ever want, I suspect.
Yes, you would never know that he was ever premature. He has had no setbacks, no hearing problems, no vision problems, no learning disabilities. Everything has been fantastic.
Isn't that one of the reasons why people get emotionally involved and want to be a part of this event? Because we see young people like Logan who are born the size of a hand, and then they survive because of the research of the March of Dimes.
It's unbelievable. I mean, you listen to the story, you feel the meaning behind what March of Dimes is all about. This is the 75th anniversary for March of Dimes, for raising money for the communities like the greater Houston and Harris County areas, doing it all across the U.S. 75 years, it's got to be meaningful. Each and every year there's more and more compassion because you see and experience so many families that go through the same experience that Suzanne has gone through. It just makes you really, really understand why it's worth our time to participate.
Suzanne, what would you tell someone who's sitting at home thinking, well, I don't know if I want to get involved? What would you tell them to convince them that they might want to get out and support the March for Babies?
Every person that's alive today has benefited from March of Dimes, whether it's just through the prenatal vitamins. If you've had a healthy baby, prenatal vitamins are there. If they were older generation and they had gone through polio vaccine created by March of Dimes, if they know somebody that's had a premature child, or if you look at the fact that there's folic acid in so many whole grains today, it's all from March of Dimes.
Well said. And for those who want to get involved, the event's next Sunday at the University of Houston. The official walk kicking off at 9, registration an hour earlier. Channel 2 is a proud sponsor. I'll be out there as well, be out there rooting you on. Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you, Canberra, for having
Suzanne,
us.
Congratulations on Logan. Thank you for your support as well.
Appreciate the time.
Now, when we come back, we'll talk about a special guest for next week's Houston Newsmakers. Stay with us. Next week here on Houston Newsmakers, a conversation with HISD Superintendent Terry Greer. Lots going on to keep the state's largest school district busy, from implementing an almost $2 billion bond program to annexing another school district to being named a finalist for one of the nation's prestigious awards for urban districts. We'll talk about it all with Superintendent Dr. Terry Greer. If you'd like to join our Newsmakers conversation on Twitter, you can follow us on Twitter at #HOU Newsmakers. And if there are subjects or stories you'd like for us to tackle, you can also email me at HoustonNewsmakers@click2Houston.com. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. If you'd like to help the victims and residents of the city of West as they recover from the explosion this week, one suggestion is to contact the Red Cross to give either a cash donation or to donate blood. Call 1-800-RED Cross. Have a great day, and I'll see you at Discovery Green and the March for Babies, then right back here again next week.